and welcome back to, I'm going to give Kelsey creepy little hands up. Well, creepy little hands day. It's creepy little hands day. I am hosting today, unfortunately. My name is Isabella Cool. And I'm together with my two favorite people in the entire world. And by that, I mean my cat and also my creepy hand. No, just kidding. But
Damn, okay. I see how it is.
Kelsey the baby. How are you doing, babies?
Ooh, I am finally recovered. Oh my God. I got my booster yesterday and it punched me real hard in the face.
Congratulations on getting your booster. It's been a struggle for a lot of people. So good job on getting your booster. You were out for like a day solid?
Yeah, like a day solid. I would say, hey, get acetaminophen because like if you had bad reactions on your second shot, you're going to have bad reactions on your third shot. And acetaminophen for the fever and the joint pains and stuff like that. Just pop one of those. Just don't resist. Take the drugs, okay? Take the drugs.
Yes,
it'll make you feel better.
If you're going to be traveling these holidays, make sure that you think about getting your booster. If you live in the Seattle greater area and you can find a booster, good luck. I've been trying to find a booster for 2 weeks now. Kelsey, what have you been up to? First of all, shush. You shush right now, okay? Because I forgot to tell you this before we started. I love your Undertaker shirt.
Oh yeah.
The Undertaker is my favorite wrestler.
Here's my problem with this shirt is that it kind of looks like he's got like some boobs going on.
You know what? I support Undertaker getting some double D's up in there if you want.
Yeah,
if you want some double D's, I support you.
I'm honestly fairly certain back when I actually had a chest, I'm fairly certain that Undertaker's chest was probably bigger than mine anyway. So it's fine.
You mean these underworld knockers, my big old death-dealing Milky Wilkies?
Oh my God! I mean, hold on? I gotta like. Did you just say underworld mommy milkers? Is that?
The Undertaker is my favorite. Macho Man Randy Savage is
actually.
Do you have a Macho Man Randy Savage tattoo?
No, but I have Undertaker's urn. Right and it says keeping kayfabe on it.
I love that. Even though the Undertaker is a problematic person in real life,
I know.
The Undertaker, the wrestler, great. He does nothing except for ring church bells and pop up out of this mysterious grave that's in the middle of the ring.
Other than the biker taker era, which we will not speak of, it does not exist.
He was trying to find himself. He was really going through a midlife crisis during that.
It was bad. Vince McMahon ruined him.
That's true for a lot of things. All right, you guys did not come here for wrestling. Okay.
If you did, I mean, I'll make a show about it later. That sounds great.
But I wanted to say that. Anyway, Kelsey, how are you?
I am great. I'm living my best life. It's Friday. Tomorrow I have D&D, which is the bright star at the end of my week. I had some really cool job interviews this week I'm excited about, so I'm feeling pretty good.
That's great.
Yeah.
How about me is what you asked? Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Was already off the rails. I'm going to be shooting 2 short films for the next 2 weeks, and tomorrow the shoot starts. It starts at 5 a.m. Do you understand me when I tell you?
No.
At 5 a.m. We start making the movie at 5 a.m., which means I have to be on set by 4 a.m. tomorrow morning.
That's when I go to bed.
Right. Which means that your girl is gonna stop screaming after this. and take something and go to sleep in the middle of the day and then wake up at like 2 a.m.
Oofa doofa.
Oof,
Oofa
I'm
doofa.
sorry for you. Here,
Yeah,
pat.
thank you. And it's in Tacoma, so I have to like.
That's like you have to wake up at like
Yes.
3.
Is that
Yes.
a drive? Is that a big boy drive?
Yes.
That's a
yes.
big boy drive, but at
So
least there won't
it's-
be traffic.
Yeah, thanks. I'm gonna have to wake up really early. I have all of I'm doing wardrobe. If you guys don't know, one of my other jobs that I do is I used to do wardrobe for films and things like that. Everything is packed up. I have to wake up at 3 and be there. So yes, I'm gonna have don't talk to me after this. I'm dead alone. So yes, I'm glad to see that you guys are all here. Your beautiful faces. Love you so much. But you know who has an even more beautiful face? Henry Cavill. That's right.
Started off right.
I started this morning by fighting with people on the internet for Final Fantasy and J.K. Rowling. I'm in a mood right now. So Henry Cavill, if you haven't heard of this man, he has been dominating the world sphere of nerddom for quite a many years now. You may know him most famously for playing Kal-El, aka Clark Kent, aka Superman. You might also know him as The Witcher. What's his name in The Witcher? Sorry.
I just know him as I don't actually know it.
Oh gosh. Okay, it's The Witcher, but his name is G. Something with a G. Oh no, this is terrible.
Geoff.
Geralt. Woo!
Gregory.
Gregory Witcher.
Jim with a G. Jim with a G.
So yes, Geralt of Witcherdom. He's a babe. He's a hot, spicy man. I don't think he's ever been named People's Magazine's hottest man of the year, which means that he actually is not sexy at all, and we're legally obligated to never call him that until he put the cover. Shout out to Paul Rudd for being People's Sexiest Man of the Year. Listen, every year they just pick the weirdest. They're just like, I don't know, just pick a man.
I had to Google who that was. I couldn't remember. Oh, okay.
Okay, that's who. All right.
We both had that experience.
We all Googled. We're like, who is this?
Paul Rudd. Anyway, he's been in the news recently because of the fact that it's been revealed that he is actually a huge Warhammer fan. He has been making all kinds of references to Warhammer. He was recently on a television program. I should probably have gotten my notes out before I started talking about this. I just wanted to go into Henry Cavill, The Graham Norton Show, which is a British talk show, which is actually very funny, where he talked about painting miniatures of Warhammer. He's actually been interviewed many times, and the internet is doing a lot of fan casting of him as God Emperor. There's a lot of fan arts of his face as the God Emperor in Warhammer. Now, Warhammer is a real spicy hot sort of topic. Okay, we talked about Warhammer before. Okay, the War of the Hammers, and I just feel a little strange about this one. One is because I feel like the only reason why Henry Cavill is so much in the news about Warhammer is because of the fact that he is hot. And it's like this whole thing of being like, Henry Cavill like Warhammer, but Henry Cavill hot. He hot. He like hammers, war.
He hot. He like game.
He like
hot people like game. Not here.
I like game. Me hot. Me no hot. It's just it's very like the whole thing is like yes, good-looking people can also be into nerdy stuff. It's completely plausible. I think that if you were a woman, it would probably be like a fake gamer. People would probably accuse him of not actually genuinely being into it. But the fact that he plays Warhammer, apparently like paints the miniatures, does the whole shebangity bang, and puts together PCs, knows about The Witcher, loves the Witcher books. People are really struggling with the idea that Henry Cavill he hot, and he also nerd who hot.
Science has proven that it now exists.
I guess I'm excited about this because remember when like Vin Diesel was like Dungeons and Dragons, and I was like, yeah, Vin Diesel, Dungeons and Dragons. I want to see this. Like when I don't know. I like it when like more nerd culture becomes more of a like, you know, it is a mainstream thing now, but I want it more.
Mm-hmm.
I wish it wasn't, this is going to sound awful of me. I wish it wasn't Warhammer, because Warhammer is such like a tough, not great community sometimes. And I know they're trying very hard to improve it. I can see them both on like the company level and like on smaller communities try and make like strides to fix it. But I still also remember the first time I walked up to like a Warhammer fantasy table, like, oh, wow, this looks so cool. Look at these orcs. And some guy physically pushing me away from the table, telling me I did not belong there.
No.
Anime Boston 05.
Oh my, I'm finding you, whoever you are, man. I'm finding you and I'll hunt you down. Okay. No, that's a lot of people's impression of Warhammer. It doesn't have the reputation for being very inclusive and very open. I know that Games Workshop has been working on that for at least as a couple of years, as I've been mindful of it, if not longer. Do we think that Henry Cavill is going to improve the image of Warhammer by being hot and into painting tiny things?
I mean, no, but not unless he decides to use it for that specific purpose, to say like, I'm a hot famous man who does nerd stuff, and hey, how about we let women do it too? If he wants to take that stance, like, cool, I'm down to clown. Do I expect that to happen? No.
Think about this. Henry Cavill paints miniatures ASMR for like 3 hours shirtless. Just a live stream of him just oiled painting miniatures, you know? Sorry, dry. He's dry as toast.
I tried to picture that, and then I realized that I don't know what he looks like shirtless, so my brain just, there's like a bobblehead situation.
You've never seen a single Justice League movie, because he's always just shirtless.
Do you think I want to watch a DC movie? Absolutely not.
All right, we're going too off the rail. We'll never get that DC sponsorship now. And I was gonna say, he can't be oiled when he paints the miniatures, because the miniatures would
That's gonna be bad.
Fall everywhere.
I don't know. I'm when I look at miniature paint, I'm gonna be a snob. I'll be like, but I want it zoomed in on just the miniature. I don't care who's painting it. He has to have manicured hands. That's all. That bothers me.
You have to have super nice hands.
Super nice hands. That's all I want. They don't need to be shirtless or anything. I just want super pretty hands.
I got terrible gremlin fingers. That's why I can't do painting streams. I got little goblin hands. It ain't gonna happen.
I saw your hands. They're adorable. Okay.
How dare you?
I feel like, you know, I just feel like Henry Cavill, he's too hot for me personally. I feel like he was engineered by NASA scientists in order to distract us from the feminist agenda.
Probably.
But I think that, you know, this, just like Bonsai said, like, the idea that more people are getting into nerd things, I can only imagine Henry Cavill being the hottest dude in school, whose one secret is that he really loves Warhammer and he can't tell anybody about it. Actually, that's kind of cute, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah. And I think that more people should be into it. It's just, it shouldn't be surprising anymore that hot people can also be nerds. You know, they didn't have a choice in how hot they were. That's not up to them. That's just, speaking of hotness, let's move into some spicy hot news. Okay.
Yeah, so let's talk about the thing that started flying around a couple days ago this week, which is TSR3 suing WotC. And for the sake of definition, TSR3 is what I am calling this because it is the third company to use the TSR name. And TSR3 is Justin Lenotska and Ernie Gygax and a couple other people who are basically their goal is to kind of bring back that era of D&D from the early 80s. And they are suing WotC for trademark infringement on images that were previously sold in an IP package in 1997. And in addition to that, one of the things that they also want is for WotC to remove a legacy content disclaimer that is on their website. Now, this legacy content disclaimer is very similar to ones you see on other companies that are long-lived. Like you see it on Looney Tunes cartoons, where Looney Tunes will say like, hey, this was from a bygone era where racism was okay, and we're trying to, we want to preserve this history, but also acknowledge that what happened here was garbage. And WotC's disclaimer is basically like, this content may reflect ethnic and racial and gender issues that were commonplace and are wrong today.
Do you want to read WotC's actual disclaimer?
Yeah, let me read it. We wizards.
Can you read it in a silly voice though?
I can try. We wizards recognize that some of the legacy content available on this website does not reflect the values of the Dungeons and Dragons franchise that were commonplace in American society at that time. These depictions were wrong and are wrong today. This content is presented as it was originally created, because to do so otherwise would be the same as claiming these prejudices never existed. Dungeons and Dragons teaches that diversity is a strength, and we strive to make our D&D products as welcoming and inclusive as possible. This part of our work will never end.
My God, I feel like we're about to go grab the hobbits because we're leaving the Shire.
You are our leader, our magical leader. You're like, it's dangerous to go alone. Yes,
but yeah,
and that's the part that upsets them. That's the statement that they want pulled down, which is the part where it's like, we want everybody to have a good time, and that's the statement that's in contest.
The reason why they're saying the statement is a problem is that it implies that people who are using or who prefer that content are bigots or racists, and that they're saying that it causes them harm. But the lawsuit itself is honestly kind of fascinating. Like, if you have time to dig into it, it's pretty buck wild. Like, the lawsuit itself is being pressed in North Carolina, where WotC isn't headquartered at all. So like, when you file this kind of lawsuit, it has to be filed either where the company is headquartered or where it is incorporated, which that's neither of those things for WotC. They have an office in North Carolina, but that's it. The suit isn't looking for any kind of compensation at all. It is looking for a judge to declare who owns this content and who owns those trademarks. That's it. And WotC specifically bought the total sum of TSR's content back in the 90s. Before they had potential to like sell off or lose any of this IP, including the logos, with the goal of just cleanly taking all of this to avoid these kinds of lawsuits, and also to pay the then owners of TSR, Gary Gygax, and I don't remember who the other owners were at the time, basically a fair deal at that payment. And so it was a pretty clean sweep. And on top of that, Wizards has continued to sell items using those trademarks and those images, so it's not like they haven't been in use. They're currently for sale right now on DriveThruRPG. So it's kind of a strange lawsuit, and on top of that, they are funding for it to the legal cost essentially on Indiegogo right now. And the thing about Indiegogo is that it's not like Kickstarter. It's when when you hit the goal, then you get the money. Indiegogo is rolling, so you can continue to get that money all throughout, whether or not you actually use it for the intended purpose. And I'm not suggesting that they are, but it's sort of a strange take on a platform that is traditionally used that way, and makes it look a little less genuine. And so there's a lot of people who are calling it like potentially a grift, which I don't think it is. I think they are genuinely going to use it for this.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to get enough money for it. That's a big boy legal battle.
Right. For them to go up against WotC, who has substantially much more money and much more resources. But I think that this is, and I would love to hear what you guys think about it as well. This is really not about the money, the sort of the possible like grift of it or anything like that. I think that this is about what TSR3 has been going through for a while now, which is like the soul of the company. This sort of idea of like the old players who want the old system back, and the way that WotC is moving in the future. So this kind of new, more I don't want to say woke, okay, but that's like the only word that can kind of encompass all of this. And it's more inclusive, it's more equitable. And WotC is moving into this sort of like, how can we incorporate all genders, all nationalities, all ethnicities, and do away with some of the problematic aspects of the past? And the original creators who feel like that makes them feel bad or look bad or anything like that, instead of just what I would say is good, is like, just embrace it, just embrace the change. Times are changing, times are moving on, and you actually look worse by fighting up against this. So it feels like what they're doing is really kind of trying to make a statement, instead of really trying to do anything. I don't think that a judge is going to award them back, because everything that the buyout, when WotC bought all these things, it was perfectly legal.
Yeah.
It's done. It's a done deal. There's nothing, just because of the fact that you don't like the direction in which they're taking your products now, that doesn't mean that you can buy it back. And that doesn't mean that they misled you about anything like that. That's their prerogative as a business, as a privately held business. And so I don't think that this is about anything substantive. I think this is about a statement that they're trying to make, more so than anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's like a specific statement or not. I genuinely, I feel like they think that they can do something with it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it all. Especially considering the amount of flack they took previously. To step out and do this, I think, is a lot. But it just feels very, very strange. And like I am actually all for a return of like old school game style. Like that's a huge thing right now, is like a return to old school. But like I was actually like discussing this with somebody, because WotC made that announcement about like the next generation of what their game is going to be, and I was like, it'd be so cool if they took some of these old school rule sets they haven't touched, or like the 1.0 rule set, and treat it kind of like World of Warcraft did with WoW Classic. And it's just like, cool, here's that classic play that you loved with a little bit of rebrand to make it less problematic. And I could see that be like a really cool option, and I would love to see that, but this ain't it.
Well, but I don't think that's their goal. I don't think that's what they want to do.
I would agree with Isabella on this one. I feel like it's more or less, they've been, as soon as they've been announcing things, they feel like they've been under attack in some sort of way or another, and they're scared of all these changes in many ways. This is my own opinion, how I see it. I just feel like this is mostly a thing of, well, like they're hyper focused on all of these changes versus like, hey, why don't we just like, we can still have our old stuff, just do a little flavor text to make it more welcoming to other people. And sometimes that, like, taking that step to become more welcoming is a very abrasive to people, especially if you're like, hey, no, this is how I always played. I didn't see how this is problematic, and I don't want to see these problems as what they are. And I don't know if I'm ready for that discussion yet. But there's still nothing wrong with, like Kelsey was saying, there's nothing wrong with playing old school games. Just maybe like, hey, make it like acknowledge that there's problems. I think that's a lot of things. It's just like acknowledging like, hey, we love these things, but there are some things that are like, about it.
Yeah,
that
and
kind of
I mean, I think that this is like a culture war sort of a thing, which we've been in for the past couple of years. I think this is not about trying to make better games. This is what I mean about like trying to make a statement. This reminds me of the whole thing when like they said that they were going to stop selling Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, and people lost their minds about it. And it's like Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head is still going to be around. They're just going to put them in a box and it's just going to be Potato Head. They're not doing away with the genders of these fictional potato people. Anyway, it's just more culture war stuff. And I feel like that this idea that WotC stands for something that is like pushing out the
oh no,
we have lost Isabella in space and time.
Well, I mean, so yes, that's like Kelsey, you could, like Kelsey was saying, if you want to go ahead and look up, this is a very interesting case, and just look up and inform your own opinions about it. We're just going to give you the basic news and our own opinions reflecting upon that. But on other things that have been spicing up around the gaming field, Kickstarter will move its crowdfunding platform to blockchain. I don't know if anybody else has been aware of it. But Kickstarter themselves, they're making a standalone company for crowdfunding, similar to Kickstarter, but based on blockchain technology. So if you don't know what blockchain technology is, it's basically blockchain tech is a digital ledger and systems of recording information. So here's a little like background information, kind of like an info dump. I'm sorry to info dump you on this, but blockchain technology costs a huge amount of energy to produce, which has damaging effects, like, basically all the hard drives that have to whirl.
Have you not been able to get any kind of PC parts for the past year and a half? It's because of this.
It's because of this. This is why we can't get gaming cards. But I'm not mad. Am I bitter? Do I sound bad?
I'm not bitter, as I tried to desperately scrape together new parts for my PC. No.
No bitter at all. But to our current crisis on tech material, this is the idea of blockchains is that there is a mathematical like proof of work that involves with mining, like the whole idea of like there's a limited amount, you can't just like keep making them. Mathematically, you can only have this much contained. So Kickstarter claims that their blockchain is carbon negative, but doing so, they use what's called a proof of stake, which is for every like thing they power, they plant a tree to kind of reduce and balance the carbon. That's a lot of companies try to do that as like, hey, we're actually good for the environment because
how they claim they're like carbon neutral or carbon negative companies. Any companies that work on blockchain that claim they do that, their product actually isn't carbon neutral or carbon negative. It's just they are paying other charities that do that kind of work in order to like offset that, but like they're still actually doing the same damage.
All right. But yeah, so on another note, Kickstarter claims that blockchain already did that. Currently the announced goal is to create crowdfunding platform powered by blockchain, then transition Kickstarter to this platform. They also claim that they want to release it as an open source protocol that other similar websites can be built on. But as you can see, a lot of backlash happened because of this. Big notable names, indie designers such as Elizabeth Hargrave and Jian Shim, and a lot of other consumers. Like even in chat, they're saying right now, folks are saying that like won't use it, won't support this initiative on that platform. My personal opinion on this, and then Kelsey, you could go ahead and step in on here, is that I think it's an unnecessary thing because the Kickstarter platform works. It works. It doesn't need this. It's yes, it's kind of a separate entity. I feel like this is an overcomplicated thing that they are like, ooh, a lot of people are talking about this and NFTs and stuff like that. But I feel like it's like, hey, I have this beautiful bike. But then they're like, you know what your bike needs? More wheels. And they're like, it's really good with these two bikes. And they're like, nah, more wheels though. It's gonna look so cool. And you're like, but I like my bike is useful.
Yeah, it's interesting because the whole concept of blockchains and this kind of technology is to basically give you a proof of ownership over something that's digital that traditionally many people feel like they don't have ownership over. And like there's a lot of supporters of blockchains that are like, even when this website that you are using is dead, you still have this blockchain that verifies you as an owner. And I question the long-term use of that. You know, if you have, like, you can have a ledger book, right? You can have a ledger book that says like all of these purchases were made, but once the website that originally made that ledger is dead, it's kind of like just having an antique where you can see that the purchases were made, but the thing that owned like the platform in which all those purchases were done on no longer exists. I can see why it's appealing to people, right? Like I can very much understand creative ownership and wanting to make sure that creators get ownership of their work. The problem is that platform is being so heavily misused now, and it's being so heavily used to smuggle money and do a ton of other stuff that I hesitate companies buying into it. And it seems strange to me to see Kickstarter do this too, especially when the technology still really isn't where it needs to be to actually like not be damaging. So because of the amount of backlash, you are going to see people backing off of using it. But I do want to say this, is that for many creators, Kickstarter right now is their only choice. Someone in chat mentioned GameFound. GameFound, I expect, is going to get a huge amount of business from this because Kickstarter's really kind of bit the bullet with this. And if they don't change, they might see a lot of people leave. But for a lot of younger companies or indie companies, they already have Kickstarters in the works. They're ready to go. They've been working on them. So if you see Kickstarters come out in the next couple of months and Kickstarter itself does not change their opinion, try to keep your criticisms of Kickstarter alive. Tell Kickstarter they're wrong, but try your best not to harm the people who have to use this platform for the time being to make sure that their products actually come to market. Because I want to make sure that we aren't harming small designers that use this platform to make their products real.
Yeah. Like with anything, if there is a form of protest or anything, please listen to the voices of those who are who are doing this. Yeah. Like, hey, don't boycott them because we actually do need to be paid still and stuff like that. And in some ways, some might be more hurtful to the cause than with the cause. Just listen. That's all we ask. Speaking of listening, WotC wants you to listen and rate some stuff, right, Kelsey? What's up with that?
Before I dive into that, I just have to note that our those of you who are watching with Isabella gone, we have this cool third panel now on Twitch that's just like the lower half of your body and the lower half
can we touch hands? Can we touch hands?
I don't think
hold on. Can we touch hands, please?
Hold on.
Oh, wait.
Where's it at? Wait. Other side. Use your other side.
Other side is other side.
Yeah.
Okay, it's other side. Hold on. Oh. We're finally touching hands.
I'm trying. It's so hard. So thank you for bearing with us through weird technical errors.
Yeah, we're trying
our best. But yeah, let me talk about WotC for a hot minute. So as we talked about a little bit a minute ago, WotC is going to be publishing like the quote unquote next evolution of D&D in 2024. So we still have plenty of time with 5th Ed if that's your jam. I know it's personally mine. I love 5th Ed. And one of the things that they're doing is running a bunch of surveys to collect feedback from players to see what they like, what they don't like, which honestly I love. I'm a huge fan of really transparent feedback loops and trying to make sure you're involving your consumer base in making the best product you can. I love that. Give me more of that. However, the spell survey, if you were to click this link in chat, you will see that it is like legit it's just like a list of every spell of all time, and you have to go click which one you like and which one you don't like, which, let me tell you, as somebody who's been playing D&D, if you ask me to remember what every spell in the game is, I ain't gonna remember. I ain't gonna remember that at all. And like so many of them are situational. It's like I love this kind of strategy where you're asking for consumer feedback, but this is
I don't remember.
Also, welcome back, Isabella.
Welcome back.
Hi, I never left.
You never left.
Nope.
That was utterly terrifying. I lost power, but it happened like in stages. So at first I was like, hey, you guys, why aren't you guys talking to me? What's going on?
You had like a brownout or something?
Yeah. It was so bizarre because it was like, this has never happened. This has never happened before. Of course it happened now so I was like, you guys aren't talking to me. What's happening right now? And then I was like, Kelsey, blink if you can hear me.
And we were just staring.
Like, oh no, what's on? And then everything reset. Everything went out and then came back on. And then I was like trying to turn everything back on again. We're
live, by the way, if you didn't know.
Hi.
Hi.
We're live. So then I came back on and then my internet wouldn't turn on. And so that was really cool for a while. So I was panicking. But hi, hello.
Welcome back.
What y'all talking about?
We're talking about WotC's crazy
WotC survey cards. But yeah, no. On that note, I also bought into like when they had the spell cards that you could buy for like individual druids and wizards. I love that. I was like, yeah, buy me those decks so I can pull it out and then ready my spells. Legitly just looking for it so I can have my spells ready and like this is the spells that I have ready. My cards. I actually don't know if they do that anymore, because I'm not gonna lie, I really was into like D&D very chunk majority of my life in terms of a role player, and then I touched my toes into like different RPGs and I'm like, there's a whole new world.
Yeah.
And
you
then
touched your toes?
I touched my toes in there. Is that the phrase? No? I realized that I get a lot of phrases wrong.
You dipped your toes.
Oh, dip my toes.
I do like touching your toes though. That's fun.
I do. You can touch your toes if you want. But yeah, I get those.
They still make them because I own them for the 5th ed. And
nice.
I played my first character I played in the campaign was a warlock, and warlock spells are like buck wild, man. And so it's like I just needed to get a card list of those so I could remember what the hell what my DC was supposed to be for half of this crap, and also what like the how big it was, and like if it was concentration, if I need to have a stupid spell catalyst or whatever. But yeah, I own the one for warlock. They do still make them. If you play D&D and you play spell classes at all, please just buy them.
Get those
if you're
cards,
DM, buy them for your players.
Buy them. That's something you invest in. Okay, buy those cards. Gosh darn it! All right.
Anyway, but yeah, if you're heavily invested in 5, if you are the kind of person who has the patience for long surveys, which I admittedly my ADHD does not. It's honestly like a really fascinating way to do it. I think it's valuable that they get this kind of feedback, and I feel like the nerd community has enough of attention span to do it, honestly. But I'm hoping the average layman will find the patience to do it too, because I think that kind of feedback will probably end up being more valuable to them. But yeah, that's it coming from WotC.
Wait, did we talk about cryptocurrency?
We did. You missed that whole piece.
You missed it. We missed it. We could rewind back if you want to talk. Put your 2 cents in.
Crypto bad.
I just wanted to say that this is all our opinions. We do not represent our employers. Please don't yell at us. Actually, you can yell at me. I don't care. I crave attention. But yes, the blockchains of it, the environmental impacts I think are pretty severe, and I don't think that we should be adding on any more additional environmental pressures when we're already in the like 11:59 hour of our planet. So yes, also sidebar, when we talk about climate change and global warming and everything like that, we always say like save the planet and stuff like that. The planet will be fine. It's humans. We're gonna die. That's what we need to keep in mind for all of this stuff, because people Right. People are
Transhumanism,
always like,
baby. I'm gonna be uploaded.
oh my goodness. People are always like, we gotta save the planet and stuff like that. Planet's gonna be here with or without us, you guys. We just have to think about how we're going to live through the future, and are we going to live through the future comfortably or not? Okay, we all cannot book a flight on Jeff Bezos's penis rocket. Okay, we all can't afford that. All right. Listen, right, it's just not something that's affordable for all of us, and I feel like we need to keep that in mind. Blockchains, NFTs, and also another sidebar, because I'm on a roll. Maybe instead of thinking about buying like a picture of a stupid monkey for $10,000, that is not a very good drawing whatsoever. Maybe just think about taking that money and commissioning an artist.
Say it louder. Do it.
Why don't you take that money and put it into commissioning an artist? Okay, for the people in the back. All right. It just, if you take the money that's a lot of money that you're spending on an NFT that like is not really, if you put that into like a local artist, it could change their entire lives. Just think about that. When you think about shopping for the holidays, consider smaller local people. That's all I wanted to mention about that. All right, are we moving on to bundles? Do we have a new boss?
Yeah.
Come on.
I am bundle bossing it up for you today. Hey, guess what? I have been looking into the bundle of holding, and Forge in the Dark is up. Hey, if you guys like Blades in the Dark, and basically just like every noteworthy title published like them in the Dark Engine, this is the bundle for you. You get everything that is Blades in the Dark, except for, I'm sorry, you don't get Scum and Villainy. I'm sorry, you don't get Scum and Villainy and Band of Blades, but you get everything else, okay? And this is a good, easy to play kind of game, especially if you're trying to intro some folks into RPGing. Just like, hey, get Blades in the Dark. It's a nice like system where you don't really have a ton of rules and you kind of play by ear kind of game, and it's really just, the world is open to so many possibilities and you'll love it. Highlights of this package include SIG, City of Blades. Basically, I can't afford the Planescape name, but this is kind of close. And also Wicked Ones, where you basically play fantasy monsters trying to trying to ward off adventurers. Sorry. I don't. I stopped myself.
No, you didn't.
I did. I stopped.
You didn't stop anything.
Why does this happen anytime I come on the show?
I was gonna. Never mind.
It stay from toes to being beat off. It's just
wow, wowie kazowie.
No. Okay. Well, in any case, it helps Direct Relief, which is helping efforts against this global pandemic that is still going on. They supply hospital equipment and all sorts of things to help people in this crisis that we are still totally living in. Yeah. Yeah. So go ahead and get your hands on that bundle of holding, please.
Great. Can somebody put the link to that in the chat?
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Let me put it in the chat.
Great. You guys, we were talking about immortality before we started the show. And I revealed to my teammates that I want to go out as I lived. I want to go out as a queen. Okay. I want to go out on one of those like old-timey, those like huge beds surrounded by flowers with like a whole bunch of like chambermaids looking on and crying and things like that. There's like a stillness, flags at half mast. I want to be like in one of those like horse-drawn hearses through the streets. You know what I mean? just weeping. But that's not going to happen for another 1,000 years because I live eternal as the Kickstarter queen. Okay. My reign continues. First Kickstarter that we have is the Stephen Rhodes Games Volume 2. Now, you guys have probably seen Stephen Rhodes illustrations floating around the internet.
Art's everywhere. Yeah.
They're everywhere. As soon as you open up the link, you'll probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a bunch of like, let me describe it for you. It's a bunch of like retro 70s looking children's illustrations, but it always has to do with something super dark. So it's like my first exorcism or cryptozoology for kids. And it's always like something that's like very, very funny, very like, very dark, very mystical, stuff like that. Something that kids should not be. If you saw some kids doing some of this stuff, I don't know who you'd call actually. Now that I think about it,
you close the door and walk away.
Just yeah. If you see some kids doing this stuff, just back away. Or
I'd assume they were making a TikTok.
That's also
That's also very valid.
Yeah, it's very hard to tell if the kids are summoning Satan or doing a TikTok.
Yeah. What's the diff?
Very true. So Stephen Rhodes has made some games. This is actually the second volume of Stephen Rhodes games together with the Cryptozoic Entertainment. And I think this is a really cool thing. These games are they're kind of cute, fun little games. If you're big fans of like Stranger Things, this might also be up your alley as well. There's 3 games that are coming out with this collection. One is Cryptozoology for Beginners. The second one is Living Well is the Best Revenge. And the third one is Let's Call the Exorcist the Game.
That's pretty good.
So you get a really cute little, it's very retro in its design, which I think is really cool. So the Cryptozoology one, grab your camera on your field school bus, make room for the whole class in this card drafting, creature collecting game for 2 to 4 players. So basically 2 to 4 players, and you have to catch different crypto, the Chupacabra, the Sasquatch, the Jersey Devil, but it's like on a field trip. Which is really fun. The second one, Living Well is the Best Revenge, is a game where you basically get to devise how to get back on your haters, how to devise different ways of raining down retribution on your enemies. That could be by summoning a dragon. That could be by sending your opponents into space. That could be just a myriad of different sort of things. And then the third game, Let's Call the Exorcist, is when, oops, Dad brought home a load of artifacts from another one of his adventures. Now the kids are getting possessed by demons. Oh no!
Oops!
So
like you do.
These are the kind of games that I used to love playing. Do you guys remember, sidebar? Do you guys remember there was a game and it was called Don't Get Bit by Dracula? Do you remember this? And you had to sneak around. You were stuck inside of Dracula's house. You had to sneak around inside of Dracula's house, and if you got stuck on a certain tile, there was like a Dracula figurine. It's like it's like a
I was gonna just say.
But you have to stick your finger inside of the Dracula and then like press on this thing. And if he like, if there was a little stamp that would like bite you, and then if you got bit by Dracula, you were dead. It was a game that I really liked as a kid. It
was a combination between that gator tooth thing, the chomping gator tooth game, plus Don't Wake Daddy.
You mean is it the gator one where you had to
press on the teeth? Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay.
It was a really cute game. And yes. Anyway,
I can't find it. I think you sleep made the stream.
That is also really plausible. Because there's a lot of things that I'm like, is this a real childhood incident or was this something I made up in order to ignore the trauma? Anyway, This game has 10 more days to go. It ends December 21st. You can get one game or all three of the games together. This is a really cool collection. I would say keep up with Stephen Rhodes and the future games. This is really cute kind of a thing, maybe for teenagers, maybe for younger kids as well. So yes, the next game that I have is Autism Challenge board game. This game ends Tuesday, January 4th, 2002. So you still have a little bit more time to catch on this game. This is a life skills educational game for people to understand autism. What I really like about this game is that it's kind of a dual purpose game. It helps people who have autism to develop social skills, emotions, to understand social rules and moral dilemmas, but it also helps people who do not have autism to understand better about how to communicate with autistic people, which I think is always the kind of missing key in a lot of things. We've heard that there's a lot of games that help people with autism. Gaming is actually a really good tool of helping people with autism develop new social skills, develop new kinds of ways of communicating and things like that. But also the other side of it is also trying to learn how to better communicate with people with autism as well. How can you, as a person who does not have it, be a better person and be a better steward for people who have autism? And I think this is a great game to help bridge those kind of things. I have I have two family members who have autism, two cousins, and throughout the years, it's been a struggle with their teachers and caregivers who we have seen yell at them and be very short-tempered with them. And it's always a struggle to find somebody who can care, who has the right mindset about caring for people with autism on the whatever spectrum they're in. And I think that people who do not have it really need to develop better skills. And so I think that this game is a really awesome way. The game was developed by Daniel and Jamie Hampson, who are mother and son. Jamie, who is the son, is going to study game design at college. And him and his mom have been developing different kind of techniques of how to deal with Jamie's condition for a very long time. And this was the board game that they developed after years and years. Autismo is the Spanish word for autism. And it's been tested with many different kinds of people for years and years, including teenagers, psychologists, special education teachers, and has been developed and changed. And it also, when they brought it to the British UK Games Expo in August 2021, they brought a prototype to that game, and it was really popular, and it was going to be used as an educational tool for colleges, teachers. It was a really huge hit, and so they decided that they were going to do a Kickstarter to fund the full game. So check that out if you're a caregiver, if you know somebody with autism, if you know somebody who has an autistic child or who works with autistic people, and this would be a really great gift for them as well. So that ends Tuesday, January 4th. Check it out.
Also, that one isn't fully funded yet, and I would love to see that one happen.
Yes.
And a lot of times we go into this and like some of the games we're looking at are already fully funded, and this one is not. It's a very cool concept. It's like a tiny, it's not, they're not a company, right? They're just two people who have a cool concept. So it'd be cool to show them support for something like this.
Absolutely. Kelsey.
It's my time. Hello, my name is Kelsey, and I love Final Fantasy. Did you know? I love Final Fantasy. I've spent the past week doing nothing but ending my workday and going to play Final Fantasy Endwalker, and then sitting in endless queues, where I will then do another hobby while I am in the queue, or watch trash television. You could also join me in the world of Final Fantasy, but I can hear you say, oh no, Kelsey, Final Fantasy has a confusing history and plotline that I can never understand. And I say, yep, you're right. But don't worry, this Kickstarter has you covered. This is why people should hire me for commercials, by the way.
Yeah, you're great. You're doing great.
10-10.
So this Kickstarter is called The Legacy of the Crystal. I'm going to link it here in chat. So Legacy of the Crystal, if you've ever played any Final Fantasy game ever, you know that the games are storytelling heavy, but like that story can get like kind of buck wild. And if you've played more than one Final Fantasy game, you will see repeat characters, repeat storylines, repeat just gods and primals and everything else. And it can be hard to keep track of. And also the Final Fantasy franchise is gigantic. There is, like, when you think about it, like right now, I think we're gonna have Final Fantasy 16 is gonna be the next one. 15 was the last game.
Game Awards announced something, right?
Did they announce 16? They might have announced 16.
Oh, nice.
I gotta look up again. I didn't really see it. I was sick.
Yeah, I also didn't. I honestly forgot about it. So I was just like, oh, Game Awards, you're so much all the time. But in total sum, there are 134 different Final Fantasy games. And like that across a bunch of different classifications. Those are full titles, spin-offs, sequels, prequels, and remakes. And what this book does is this book has been made by a bunch of basically Final Fantasy historians who are just huge nerds who went, let's make a union of Final Fantasy historian nerds who then categorizes and talks about the history of each game. So this goes into the history of its development, an explanation of like how development led up to that point, what kind of vibe or philosophy each creator of those Final Fantasy games put into it, and then some of like the artwork, the details, and how well or not well it released, because I'm sure with 134 titles that you haven't heard of 90% of them. Also, only a fraction of those were released in the US because for some reason Square Enix is like, Americans won't like Final Fantasy games, and I'm just like,
well,
you mean the Final Fantasy?
Americans weren't ready for Final Fantasy, okay?
That's true.
So a lot of y'all are out here thinking Final Fantasy VII is the first Final Fantasy game, okay? And y'all need to get educated, okay? All you really need to know about Final Fantasy is, one, Moogles are everything. They're adorable. They're great.
I have that tattooed on me too.
Chobits is a big running turkey ride one. 3,
Chocobo. Chobits is a cute anime cat girl.
Chocobos.
Chobits is a robot that, yeah.
No, I didn't make a mistake. Moving on. Ignoring Chocobos. 3, get yourself some belts. Don't. A lot of them, okay? And then 4, crystals. It's all about crystals.
All about crystals.
So yeah. Final Fantasy. When does this end?
This ends in 68 hours, not days. 68 hours. So you have a minimal amount of time left to back this book. It is, honestly, this looks really cool. And as someone who's obsessed with like weird video game history, like this is awesome. One of my favorite, here's like a little nerd fact about me. One of my favorite albums of all time, like musically, is a mashup album that is Wu-Tang and the Final Fantasy IV soundtrack. I'm obsessed with it.
Okay. We have 2 minutes.
Okay, sorry, we have 2 minutes. I love Final Fantasy. If you also love Final Fantasy, or you're trying to figure out what your friends are talking about, purchase this book.
Yes.
You have 68 hours left. Goodbye.
So I got a couple more left. One is the American Bookshop Cinderella's Dance. These 2 games, which you can buy as a pack, but you can also buy separately, is by Twins Lion, which is a Twins Lion Do Books, which is a Japanese games publisher. They do what they call trick-taking games, which I don't exactly know what the definition of that is. But you might remember them. We covered them last time because they did a game called A Kindly World. They've also done games like Masked Men, Ghost of Christmas. They're really cute, small indie book selling company who also makes board games and card games as well. They have 2 new ones coming out. American Bookshop, which was, I have to read this really quickly. The creator of this says, when I was working in a bookstore in America, there was an unhappy manager who took my precious playing cards. I was a little bit upset, and it inspired me to make a game that he couldn't find out about, a game using books. So boo to this American bookstore owner who bullied this games creator from Japan. Boo on you. But These games are really, really cute. I love these like Japanese games that you can play that have like these really cute aesthetics. So there's two: American Bookshop, which is when you're trying to collect all the different kinds of books in a series, and then Cinderella's Dance, where you're trying to match your opponent's dance moves using cards, and it's really cute. This one ends Sunday, December 19th, so you still have a little bit ways to go. The next one that I have is The Goblings, a whimsical adventure for the 5th edition. I love these little booger-shaped little goblin dudes, okay? They look like little snots, and you can pretend to be a little goblin and play in the 5th edition. You got your little booger friends, and you can do a bunch of little goblin adventures. I love goblins. They're disgusting and they're gross, and I love them. So this is a really cool thing if you're looking for a little side adventure with goblins. They're shaped like little boogers. This one ends on Tuesday, December 21st as well. And we also wanted to say that Coyote and Crow, which was a game that we streamed last week, right?
Last week.
Yes.
This one is the Kickstarter is up. So you can
order the PDF.
You can order a PDF.
Yeah.
Of this now. So if you were watching the Coyote and Crow, which is an indigenous RPG made by indigenous people, which has none of the icky colonization from other games that we're trying to get away with it. Suck it, TSR3. This game, that's my own opinion, not the opinion of anybody that owns this company. This game is now available. You can order the PDF and play it on your own. So a science fiction fantasy role-playing game set in a completely uncolonized future made by indigenous people. It's an incredible concept. If you watched the game last week and you want to own it yourself and you want to play it, you have the opportunity to now do that.
I believe if you haven't watched it, you can actually still watch it on our Twitch page. If you go back, eventually it will go on our YouTube page. I highly suggested the GM Shay did an amazing job. Oh boy, they are great.
Also, can we give a round of applause to Kelsey for setting that whole stream up and everything?
And also Marcus.
Also Marcus, but also
yeah. I was honestly, those guys were a dream to work with.
Where also there's still an opportunity for you to donate money to the Indian Residential School Survivors Society for the rest of the month. So if you wanted to make those donations for December, you still can do that. And you can type !IRSSS in the chat to donate as well. The Indian Residential School Survivors Society, it provides services to the survivors of residential school abuse that took place during the colonization of North America, which was a brutal thing that didn't end until I believe the late 90s, which is horrific to think about.
Yeah, there's also still some schools being shut down to this very day.
Yep. It's a horrible thing. But you can still help and do things. We are do not get paralyzed by how many horrible things are going on in the world. There's still so much you can do. We still have power. You can do small things. You can buy from indie creators. You can support Kickstarters. You can buy games. You can donate to services. Don't give up hope. I know that it's hard in these horrible times that we're in right now to feel like there's nothing I can do. Everything is on fire. But I just want to tell you, there's always something you can do, no matter how small and minor it might be. There's always something you can do about that. Okay, so don't fall into the nihilistic paralysis of negativity. Don't get overwhelmed by that. You can always do something. Okay, I just want to end it on that note. All right, you guys, that's it. Me and Henry Cavill, we're gonna go play Warhammer. We're about to grease ourselves up, and we're gonna go.
Love it. Whatever.
Right. So I will catch you guys around later. Thank you so much. But before you hit that dial, just know we've got a whole bunch of other stuff. Mondays, here's a streaming schedule, okay? Get a notepad, write this down, okay? Mondays, 6 p.m. board games with the brothers Murph. They're brothers. They're
Murphs.
They're Murphs.
Murphs.
So they watch them play board games. Wednesdays, this game gets dicey. Everybody has a knife for hands in this one. No, that's not what it is.
That would be crazy.
Ooh, knife for hands.
Check it out. I just watched Edward Scissorhands with my cousin for the first time ever, and he's like 19, and it blew his mind.
Wow.
He was like,
Wow.
who could have thought of a movie with a man with knife hands? I was like, listen, the 90s were wild. Friday, 2 p.m. Join us again. TableTakes will be back again. We're contractually obligated. There's a law that mandates that we have to be here every single Friday. It's part of our community service for undisclosed crimes that we have committed.
I'm a criminal.
We're not going to talk about it right now, okay? Remember to follow or subscribe. Slap that notification button as hard as you can, okay? Damage that thing. If you miss a show, you can catch most of our streams just 24 hours later in American terms. That's one day. On the YouTube, if you subscribe, also just knock that YouTube subscription button. Also, just slap it right off the website, okay? If you want to connect with the Gen Con fans, check out our official Discord where you can talk about how great I look and what kind of oils you think Henry Cavill uses on his luscious
please
bodies.
talk about that in the Discord. I'll be so happy.
Thank you so much to the viewers. Thank you so much to Kelsey and Bonsai. Thank you so much to the great voice Beyond, Marcus, for helping us. Beyond, thank you. Job bless, dog bless. And we'll catch you guys next week. All right, get your booster if you can. Stay vaccinated. Everybody stay safe. Don't fall into nihilism. There's always something that you can do to help make this world a better place. Bye.
Go smell a flower. Bye.
Bye.
Touch some grass.